So this video would be the installation of the front sprocket and the chain. I'm going to first start with installing the front sprocket. This is a 15 tooth. The OEM is a 16 tooth configuration. Just going to try it with going one down in the front. This should gain me a little bit of low-end torque, sacrificing a little bit of high-end speed, but one tooth shouldn't be too drastic of a difference. So just installs within the splines like so. Remember your safety washer, just goes in like that, and your nut. So what I'm doing here, I'm using the old chain and I wrapped it around partially from around the front and rear sprocket. The reason why I'm not using the new chain is I don't want to stretch it, although it doesn't really matter. I just like doing it this way. So yeah, and also I'm using a breaker bar here through the rear wheel so I can torque this down. The torque spec is about 90 foot-pounds. And there it is, all torqued down. Make sure that when you're doing this operation, you're doing it in neutral, not in gear. And the final step here is to flatten down the washer. So what you want to do is flatten the part that hasn't been used. So basically, this washer can be reused a couple times before you got to get a new one. So that's a lot of sprocket changes. And there you have it. Doesn't look the best, but I just had to do with what I had. All I used was a dull punch and just tapped it down in there. So that's it for the front sprocket installation. Now we're going to move on to the chain. So you just basically thread the chain through. I'm not going to show you that on video because that's pretty straightforward. Put the transmission in neutral and just put it through. And then you should end up with something like this. If you counted your chain links right, this should be pretty accurate there, with a little bit of chain slack, or a lot of chain slack, but we'll adjust those later. So now we're going to put in the master link. The master link includes a bag of grease, and you want to just smear it all over the O-rings, the link itself, well, the inside of the link. So I'm just going to smear it around, all around the O-rings first. Remember, there's no such thing as too much grease. So once you got the two in the back there, you want to thread it through, or you want to put it through the chain. Start from going in from the back. Like so, and then continue on with the remainder of the remaining two O-rings. And then just see if you can keep the master link or the outer plate on just by pressure there. And now I'm going to take my chain tool by Motion Pro, and using the press plates, these two press plates here, and they only fit in one end, so the flat part here fits on the bottom and the ones with the two holes fit on the top. So make sure that you're try to line up the holes as best as possible, front and or top and bottom. So a little tip on pressing your master link. Keep an eye on the tightness that you're pressing it in. Remember that if you push it in too tight, you're going to create a tight spot in where the master link is, and that's usually no good. And to undo it is usually a very tedious task, and you may have to destroy your master link and start over again. So if you're doing this for the first time, press it in slowly and just check your pressure by spinning, or check your pressure by spinning the wheel around, spinning the chain around a sprocket. So then you see that if it's not kinked. If it's kinked, well, that's pretty much too late. You've tightened out your master link too much, and you probably have to start again. If it doesn't kink, you're pretty much on the right track. Now, I know the service manual for Kawasaki says 17.25 to 17.45 millimeters. That's the outer width of the links. However, don't follow this if you're using the DID master link. The DID master link is a totally different specification than than what's listed in the manual. The manual lists the specifications for an EK type master link. I don't know the specifications for the DID master link, but I'm gonna assume that it's probably 17, no less than 17.4, 17.35 minimum, and 17.35 might be a little bit tight. I did mine to about 17.4, so anywhere from there and up, you should be okay. Another way that I do this visually is when I'm pressing the link, I press it no more than the rivet itself. I actually don't have a picture of the rivet, but if you do have a rivet in your hand, you can see where the softer rivet material ends and where the pin begins. I usually just press it to the border of the two, and that's usually a good starting position. And you can always tighten it you can always press it in more, but you can't always loosen it. So I'm taking the riveting tool from the kit and just reassemble like so, putting the spring inside, the smaller bolt, and the anvil, which goes down here. So it's a similar process to removing the chain pin. And that's it. Once flared properly, you will basically what the riveting tool does is it just widens the rivet here, and it should just make it so this chain doesn't fall out, or this link doesn't fall off.